So, when I began my journey in this industry, I didn't know that one idea would end up reshaping my entire path and gradually began influencing expectations across the ecosystem. Most people think that transformation comes from new technologies or big ideas, but sometimes it begins with something really small. A thought, a question, a small idea that quietly changes everything. I'm Prerna Upadhyay, and my work centers around solving complex operational and commercial challenges by rethinking how systems and services work. I work across multiple stages of international education, be it student recruitment, operations, admissions and compliance, partnerships, and the cross-functional systems that support thousands of students' journey across the globe. Each of these areas looks straightforward from the outside, but inside they carry layers of decisions, dependencies, and pressures. These are all different functions with all different goals, but with the same underlying complexity. Complex industries don't often need new products. Sometimes they need new perspectives. Sometimes they need someone who sees the gaps that many have accepted as normal. And sometimes they need one idea strong enough to hold all the moving parts together. And for me, that idea was service. When I entered the UK international education space, which was about 8 years ago, this industry was expanding quickly. More students, more ambition, more institutions, and more opportunities. But beneath that growth was a system struggling under its own weight. And that's where I found a gap. Applications went in, and then everything slowed down. Students waited with no clarity. Recruitment partners tried to follow up, but updates came slowly. Institutions promised timelines, but real experiences didn't match those promises. And beneath this were real human consequences. Students who didn't know whether to book a flight or cancel it. Families unsure whether to commit their savings or hold back. Recruitment partners trying to manage expectations without having clarity themselves. In this industry, a small delay is rarely small. A missing update could affect a visa appointment, a travel plan, a financial decision, and sometimes even an academic opportunity and an entire future. And I saw students at their most vulnerable, confused, anxious, and sometimes completely stuck. Recruitment partners carried enormous pressures, not only guiding students, but absorbing the emotional weight that comes from every uncertainty. And I remember moments where a partner would call me very late at night because a student was stuck at an airport with a document issue, and the student was scared and confused, overwhelmed, and not sure about what to do next. And there was another moment when, after we completed the admissions process for a student, his father said, "This is the first time anyone in our family is going abroad. Please just tell me my son will be okay." You know, instances like these remind me that behind every file is a family trying to move forward with confidence. Through these experiences, something became clear. Students and parents needed someone who would show up when it mattered. They were not struggling because opportunity was missing. They were struggling because support was missing. And that gap between what students expected and what the systems delivered was affecting far more than people realized. And that's when an idea began to take shape for me. What if real changes didn't come from fixing the system, but by changing how we serve within it? The idea was simple: to treat service not as a formality or a process, but as something people could genuinely rely on. Not service as a polite gesture, not service as a checklist, but service as a mindset, as a commitment to show up when students and parents need it the most. I experimented with a culture where no query was insignificant, no concern was not urgent, and no one waited in silence. Students and parents were responded with presence, guided with clarity, and supported with empathy. And every request was treated with the urgency of a student's real life. And slowly, the change became visible. Students felt calmer, recruitment partners felt supported, people felt seen, and trust began to build. Looking back, this was a result of applying a small and a very simple idea. I still remember a message from a parent after his daughter received an early admissions letter. He said, "I slept peacefully for the first time in days. You made sure that everything happened in time, and it felt like someone was standing with us and thinking about my daughter's future as their own." It was just one line, but it showed me how clarity can ease so much unnecessary worry. Then there was a student who once told our team, "This time I was not confused at all. You explained everything so clearly that I finally felt confident about my decision." It reminded me that confidence doesn't come only from approvals. It comes from understanding. It comes from guidance. And a partner once said earlier, "I used to prepare students for delays, but now I prepare them for what to do next when they land in the UK." That simple sentence captured the shift more than anything else. Because support was no longer a task, support became a principle that I consistently worked to uphold. And when people feel genuinely cared for, they remember it, they trust it, and they begin expecting similar levels of support everywhere. And this was the beginning of a quiet shift. But care alone was not enough. This industry is incredibly complex, requirements changing constantly, regulations shifting mid-season, markets moving fast, dozens of institutions with different rules, and hundreds of students moving through timelines that depend on each other. If you leave the system attended for even a few days, it begins to break. So service had to be more than empathy. It had to be disciplined. So what I did here was I monitored continuously. I watched where things slowed. I recognized patterns before they turned into problems, managed to fix the issues before they grew, learned from them, and built systems to prevent them from happening again. And whenever the market shifted, which it often did, I didn't wait. I prepared before the impact reached us. Nothing about this was easy. Nothing about this was one time. This rhythm had to be rebuilt again, again, and again. This combination, heart plus rigor, care plus structure, and presence plus precision, created something powerful. Service became reliable, reliable became trusted, and trusted became transformative. Students began saying, "They helped me." Partners began saying, "They understand us." Institutions began noticing the consistency, and gradually, expectations around us began to shift too. Some partners adjusted timelines. Some institutions redefined communication styles. Perhaps the consistency we built encouraged paths of the ecosystem to evolve as well. Because once people experience genuine support, they often stop accepting anything less. And that's how a small idea gradually created a meaningful change, not through scale, not through marketing, but through a level of care and reliability that people couldn't ignore. Excellence has its own way of spreading. It quietly resets expectations, and it forces everything around it to evolve. This journey taught me something that goes far beyond international education. We often overestimate how much permissions we need to think differently. We often assume that scale is required to create an impact. We assume ideas must be big, but sometimes impact begins with one small idea. Industries don't change when systems change. Sometimes they change when someone chooses to serve differently. This journey has shown me that ideas don't need big moves to grow. They develop slowly through small steps, small decisions, and small moments of courage. And I want to leave you with this thought. Your ideas doesn't have to be loud to matter. A small idea can spark a meaningful shift even in the most complex industry. Your ideas are not small. Your ideas are not secondary. Your ideas are not optional. Your ideas are part of who you are. Thank you.